Socialism. National Socialism, more commonly known as Nazism, is the ideology and practice associated with the Nazi Party, officially the National Socialist German Workers' Party, in Nazi Germany and other far-right groups with similar aims. Führer, the idea that there should be a single leader with complete power rather than a democracy.
After the First World War, Germany experienced hyperinflation and the Great Depression. Hitler wanted Germany to be great and held the Jews responsible for Germany's downfall. He saw the Jews as Bolsheviks, socialists and social democrats who destroyed Russia and were trying to destroy Germany. He saw the only way to protect Germany and to achieve his goals and ideology was to take full power of Germany. That's why Hitler wanted to be a dictator. Hitler said, "There must be no majority decisions, but only responsible persons, and the word council must be restored to its original meaning. Surely every man will have advisors by his side, but the decision will be made by one man."
Autarky, the idea that Germany should be economically self-sufficient.
The only way to make Germany strong again was to make Germany self-sufficient. The German people had suffered terribly during the First World War and the Great Depression, and a huge part of the Nazi appeal was that they promised to make Germany's economy strong again. Hitler aimed for full employment. This is what Hitler said referring to the economy. "The National Socialist Party is convinced that our nation can achieve permanent health only from within, on the basis of the principle, the common interest before the self-interest."
Lebensraum, the need for living space for the German nation to expand.
Hitler had already started his political career in 1990 and had been influenced by pan-German thinking, but he was not yet clear about where the expansion should take place. To begin with, he was not hostile towards Russia, and saw Britain and France as Germany's main enemies. Indeed, during 1919, he blamed Germany's pre-war politicians for supporting Austria-Hungary against Russia. By 1920, he was arguing that an alliance between Russia and Germany can come about only when the Jewry is removed, and by 1924 he had come to write Mein Kampf. He had concluded that Russia would be the target of German drive to acquire Lebensraum. So how did this change of approach come about? Hitler's views on Russia during these early years were strongly influenced by Alfred Rosenberg, who had joined the Nazi Party in 1920 and become the editor of its newspaper. Rosenberg was a Baltic German who had studied in Moscow when the Russian Revolution broke out in 1917 and had left Russia for Germany in November of 1918. Thus, he had experienced the Bolshevik Revolution at first hand and became convinced that it was the work of the Jews. Hitler considered Rosenberg an expert on Russia and became equally persuaded of the link between Bolshevism and the Jews. By 1922, it was becoming apparent that the Bolshevik regime in Russia was here to stay. Indeed, it was clear from an interview Hitler gave in December 1922, but that by then he had decided that an alliance between the Bolshevik Russians was out of the question. Germany would be better off working with Britain and Italy against Russia, which could in turn provide Germany's necessary Lebensraum.
Social Darwinism, the idea that the Aryan race was superior and the Jews were subhuman.
Hitler's views on eugenics were based on social policies that placed the biological improvement of the Aryan race or the German master race through the eugenics at the centre of Nazi belief. But Hitler did not create these views. He merely put into policies ideas that had circulated through the Western world in the late 19th and early 20th century. The roots of the Nazi ideology were found in Darwin, Nietzsche and the philosopher Houston Stewart Chamberlain. They made their way to Hitler by the way of Julius Friedrich Lehmann, a Munich publisher specializing in medical texts. This vivid poster from September 1930, Reichstag Electorate, summarizes the Nazi ideology in a single image. A Nazi sword killing a snake, the blade passing through a red Star of David. The red words coming from the snakes include Versailles, unemployment, war guilt, Marxism, Bolshevism, lies and betrayal, inflation, and the last three are the names of Jews involved in a major financial scandal of the time.
Fascism. Fascism is a form of radical right-wing ideology that is characterized by authoritarian, ultranationalist and dictatorial power, forceful suppression of opposition, and strong regimentation of society and the economy.
Hitler believed that the Aryan race had the purest bloodline of all people. He believed that the German nation was superior, so he wanted to unite all German people under one nation, and acquire living space for the people of Greater Germany. This affected his foreign policy as he needed to destroy the Treaty of Versailles so he could create Lebensraum for the Greater Germany.
Nationalism. Identification with one's own nation and the support for its interests, especially to the exclusion or detriment of the interests of other nations.
Hitler and the Nazi Party were constant presence in the life of the German people. He used his dictatorial powers to control the populace, and he used the propaganda to convince them of the Nazi ideology. The infamous swastika symbol appeared on every government uniform and public building, and pictures of Hitler were displayed everywhere. Germans had to greet each other with a Heil Hitler raised arm salute. The government department responsible for all this was the Ministry of Enlightenment and Propaganda, headed by Joseph Goebbels. It aimed to brainwash people into obeying the Nazi ideology and idolizing Hitler.